Hey guys, Mike from Backyard RC here today for the next part of our covering series. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe now and hit that like button to stay tuned for the following videos. In the last video, I covered my horizontal stabs here and showed you guys how to do that one. I've gone ahead and now have both sides completed. Today we're going to be covering our vertical stab here. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll flip it the other way so you guys can see. We'll do this side first. I've gone ahead here and I've cut a piece of covering. It's bigger than the area that I need to cover. A couple inches on the tip so I can pull it over easy, and about an inch at the front and back. So that looks like it's gonna fit well. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack cloth this area that we're gonna cover. Get all that dust off just like all the rest of our parts. And remove the backing off this covering and get started here. So this is a little bit of a strange surface to cover with the curve coming inwards on itself here, but we'll show you guys how we're going to deal with that when we get there. So I'm going to lay my covering where I want it. Again, overlapping our fillets that we previously put on. I'm just going to tack it in the middle to start, similar to our elevators once I have it where I want it. So go ahead and give that a tack. Make sure it stayed where you want it. Now I'm going to start working this front to back in the middle, getting a tack the whole way across that surface. And now I'm going to work it up towards our tip here. Giving that a slight stretch, pulling the wrinkles out towards the tip. Tack it all the way up to the leading edge there, or sorry, the trailing edge, and we'll also come up to our leading edge. Now we're going to go the opposite way here and go into the crack, starting in the middle there and sealing it down in the corner. Now I'm going to take this and seal this down the whole way across. Again, pulling on it if I need to get any wrinkles out. The more wrinkles we can keep out at this stage, the easier it is when we have to shrink the couple that are left out. So just working that back, trying to pull my wrinkles out along the way. You see it comes up pretty nice. Make sure it's sealed down the whole way right up to that trailing edge. And you can see so far we're left with a nice smooth surface. Doesn't take long to do that at all. Now for the tricky part, you can see as we pull this corner is going to naturally want to leave a wrinkle for us. So what we're going to do is seal it out into the corner going this way first. And if we have a wrinkle develop, we'll let it develop in this corner. Just working that forward and then bring it into our edge the whole way. See, I have a little wrinkle there, but that's going to work out easy after the fact, so I'm not going to worry about that for now. And now we're going to try and seal this up towards the top edge here. sealing it down the whole way. And here's the area we're left with. That's gonna be our problem area. So we're gonna seal that down into that area now as best we can. We're gonna end up with a few wrinkles, but that's okay. Nothing we won't be able to take care of. Putting a little pressure so it comes over that edge. Working it down. And there we go. So to get this corner covered completely, I'm gonna slice this piece low and the next piece will be sliced higher to work around that edge. That way they'll overlap, and again, we won't have any noticeable gaps in the covering, as well as it'll be good and sealed for fuel proofing. I'm just changing a blade on my knife real quick, get a good fresh blade for this. So I'm gonna put the first slice down at the bottom of that edge and just cut that right out. It's gonna need one more relief cut along the way here. Take that up to the edge. And you can see it's going to develop some wrinkles, but we'll be able to get those out as we work it over the edge with our heat gun. So this is going to be a little different. We're going to start down with our bottom piece, but I'm going to use my heat gun here. Applying heat to stretch it. You see the glue, and I'm just gonna hold it where I want it there. Have it tack that leading edge. Pulling out the wrinkles as much as we can. And you can see that sealed that edge up. So I'm gonna now come over to this top piece. You can see those wrinkles there disappear for the most part. We'll address any small ones that are left there in a moment. But for now, we're gonna do our tip. So same thing, we're gonna pull out as much of the excess covering we can here towards our tip and seal that down. As we do this, we're heating and pulling and stretching the covering out. Pulling it over the bottom corner, or the other corner, I guess, for the time being. And for the most part, we have our wingtip. So I'm gonna go ahead here and cut it just at the tip, slice it across so I can wrap my edge over, down like so, and that'll allow us to finish everything off. So for the trailing edge, I'm gonna go back to my iron here, pulling the excess over the edge and tacking it to our trailing edge. Working that piece the whole way across, again pulling out the excess as I'm going there. And then the same thing up towards this tip. So I'm going to get that all sealed down nicely the whole way across. I'm going to stand the plane up right here for a minute. So at this point, I'm going to take my iron. I'm going to seal up all my front edges. Make sure everything's tacked down good here, because we're going to trim off all our excess in a minute. I'm going to need a little more heat in that area for a minute, so back over to the heat gun for just a second. Now we have the wrinkles out of that piece. Again, just hit it with the iron, make sure it's all sealed down good. So I want to make sure it's sealed past the halfway point. Again, that way we get a nice overlap when we do both sides. And as I come up to this tip, there's still some wrinkles. So the last side we did is good, but we're going to finish it off over the corner here. So this time we're kind of pulling it down. And by down, I mean down over the edge. I just have a little tab that's hanging here. I'm going to slice so I can seal it down. Go to my little sealing iron for a second. Get that all sealed down. So there we have this side, I will say, complete. We just got to trim off our excess. We're going to have to seal this piece down once we trim off our excess as well. For the most part, it's done, so I'm just going to go... Actually... For this, I have a tool I'm actually going to use. It's a Top Flight tool that just has some number 11 blades in it. Get it set how I want here. You can see it just uses the edge as a guide to give a nice clean cut. The tips are a little hard with it. Now we have the excess trimmed off. Just going to clean that up a tad. Here we'll give this one a cut over the edge like so. Trim that last little piece just with a razor. Give that a little tab that we seal down. Seal down this edge the whole way. Now our last steps to trim the excess on this trailing edge. And I'm just going to use the edge tool for that. I can see my covering's not 100% sealed along this back edge, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up sealing this. There we go. Now I'm just going to turn my iron up a little bit. We see we have a few little wrinkles at the back, one little one up front. So let's work out the couple wrinkles in here and get this side finished right up. See that little wrinkle we had at the tips now gone. Let's work out our little wrinkle right here. Get that out of the way. we have in that leading edge we'll get rid of. And now we have our first side finished there. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready for our next side and do it all over again. So we're ready to get started on the next side here. Again, we're gonna wipe it off with our tack cloth. And again, I've pre-cut my covering. So I'm gonna lay that down where I need it. So we have this piece set where we want it, and again, we're just gonna tack it in the middle here. Sealing that down. Now we're gonna work it out towards our tip. Once I get up to the curve in the tip, I'm just gonna leave it there. Now we're gonna do the same thing going down. Work it out over our back edge here. Now, like last time, we're gonna seal this down coming forward. Sealing it right down into our corners. Pushing those air bubbles out towards the edges. And now again, we're left here with this tricky area. Best we can, we're gonna work all the wrinkles out towards this leading edge. So I'm gonna go ahead now, and we know we're gonna have to make those relief cuts. So I'm just gonna make sure I offset them from the ones we did the last time. And this way we're gonna have a good fuel-proof edge all the way around. This helps me work those wrinkles out right off the bat. So again, working our covering down in this area the best we can to avoid our wrinkles. If you develop like they are here, it's not the end of the world. Get them out. Just gonna go back to this leading edge and seal it the whole way across. Starting to come. You can see I didn't have tension on it there, and I actually caused myself to put in a few wrinkles, but those will come out right now. It's important to pull your excess away from the edge you're working on. This area is going to want to give me a bit of a headache again. That's okay. We're going to use our heat gun in that area. So we're going to start and tack this over the edge, down into the center of that leading edge for the time being. Same up towards here, pulling our covering away. Not going to go right into the tip because I'm still going to have to make a cut for that flap. I'm going to start working this first corner piece. Pulling on it. And getting the wrinkles out as I bring it around. Same on this piece. This is where our trim iron's gonna help out. Gets in those tight areas nicely. It actually doesn't appear to be on, so that's not gonna work. That's okay. Now I'm gonna go to the heat gun in this area and try and get all these wrinkles out over the edge, pull it away and seal that covering down. And now the same on this piece. Although I wasn't focusing on the wrinkles in this area, you can see as I tightened out the edge, some of them came out as well. So now I'm gonna go ahead, same thing with this front edge. Work these couple wrinkles out right there. Turn our iron up a little, get this last little wrinkle out. Just using time and heat to work those wrinkles out. Being careful we don't over shrink it, but getting enough heat that it does shrink itself. You can see those have come out now nicely. A few blemishes down in the corner. Some of it was from our fillet piece, some of it was from the model not being perfect, but all in all, we have a nice edge. We're gonna come up now and do our tip. we're gonna go ahead and put a slit in this corner that's gonna allow us to fold our covering over. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and fold this piece down and over to start. Tack that along the back side.
Now we can fold this piece over nicely.
Just gonna use my heat gun for this corner. So we still have a bit of a curve. Make sure that's sealed down quickly with my iron here. A little pressure, just make sure that covering's stuck. The last cut I'm gonna make in this here is gonna be similar but a little different. I'm gonna cover that last little piece of open area we have. So I'm just gonna be sure I don't slice my covering on that same spot. Now my little iron's back on and heated up, so work this edge down like so. Wrap that piece right over the fin. Seal it down right there. Go ahead and trim that down. Now we're left with a nice area. No fuel can get in there. Get that wrinkle out quick here with my hot iron. So let's finish this off now, guys. I'm gonna tack all our leading edges here, going the whole way down and coming back the whole way up, getting this surface ready to trim. I'm sealing over the better half of the edge, I'll call it. That way when I trim, we have our overlap. I'm gonna have to work our tip just a tad more here. Just bringing our tip past that 90 point as well. I'm gonna go ahead here and just trim this with my razor along the edge. Being careful we don't cut into our other layers of covering when we're doing this. I'm gonna do the same thing over my tip. Pulling that excess covering tight as I'm cutting. I'll trim that out of the way for the time being. I'm gonna do the same thing on our pieces down here. I'm gonna seal this piece a little bit more. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply heat on my seams, and that's going to make these seams virtually disappear. Watch out for that. Now, if you look up on here, guys, you can't even really see where that seam was. So just gonna finish trimming this tip up. Seal that little tag down, make that disappear. There we go. Now I'm going to use my top plate tool again. I want to be careful I only go through one layer of covering though, so I'm not putting hardly any pressure on it. Little lip behind's giving me some grief, so that didn't leave us the cleanest cut like it was supposed to. Trim into the area here where it was giving me grief by hand. I'll go ahead and seal all this down again. Make sure that edge is good and sealed the whole way along. One final little trim of any overhanging covering. And being super careful you don't cut any of your other layers of covering. You don't want to wreck all your hard work you put into this stage. I'm going to go ahead Make that crease disappear. No seams. Add some heat onto it. This tip's got a piece that's bothering me and overhanging, so let's get rid of it. Smooth edge. Sealing all those edges up nicely here. And there you have it, guys. We're left with our vertical fin covered on both sides, as well as our horizontals that we covered in the last video. You can see it's not that hard, it just takes some time to do. Just take your time when you're doing this process, and I think you'll be happy with the results you get. Until the next video, which will be covering the bottom of the fuselage, it's Mike from Backyard RC. Don't forget to subscribe to stay tuned for our videos coming up, and as always, thanks for watching.